Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Burnout Lab, the podcast dedicated to helping women navigate burnout and reclaim their well-being. I'm your host, Tevi Leg, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. I'm here to help you live your life lit. Hi, and welcome to the show. Today I have Crystal, good friends of mine. Crystal and Kelly Jo, both teachers, both parents, both have been teaching for 20?
Close to 20
20
years.
years.
20.
We're old. We're closer to retirement than we are starting out.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay. As part of the Educator Series that I'm doing on the podcast, really excited to have a really honest conversation with you guys today. I think about my own perception, my own kids, my own learnings as I've continued to interview teachers throughout this process and learn more about the importance of advocating for our teachers. There's so much for us to unpack. I can't wait to have the conversation. So before we get into it, maybe I will just hand it off to you first, Kelly Jo, to introduce yourself, share a little bit about yourself, and then Crystal, you can go after her.
Sounds good. Awesome. I'm just so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to see you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, to be in the same room with Tevi. So longtime friend of Tev's.
Yeah.
Over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And been an educator for that long. And mother of two. Partner is also an educator and administrator. Have my master's, but I don't really know that that's
it is.
That's part of the bio, but yeah. And I guess I would say I'm an early educator. I teach grade 1 and I've primarily taught younger students throughout my career.
Cool.
All right. And I'm Crystal, and I'm also a mom to 3 teenage boys. So busy host of Testosterone.
Yeah.
Friend of Tevi's since, we're both Saskatchewanites.
Yep.
So
Go
we've
Riders.
known each other. Go Riders. We bleed green. We've known each other for 10 years.
At least 10
more
years.
than that, probably.
Since
Maybe
12 years
12, more
since the
than
boys were born.
Yeah.
Your youngest, my oldest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our boys hang out and
Yes.
have a lot of common sports together. And yes, I also I have a passion for teaching, and I've always taught early education. What else?
It might be important to note that Crystal and I are team teachers.
Yes.
So we teach together.
Yes.
And I couldn't do my job without.
And I feel the same way.
That is very
I feel
important.
the exact
Mhm.
same way. So we're lucky to
Yes.
have each other to bounce ideas off, and most importantly, to laugh with.
Yes. Big
That's
time.
so
Many times a
important.
day.
I feel like that is lost in so many workplaces now. The
Mhm.
ability to have fun. People are tired and they're burnt out, and the world is such a polarizing place. And I think it's only getting worse.
Mhm.
And what I really try hard to do on the podcast is hold space for polarization and for duality, so that we understand that one person's lived experience and one person's perspective is valid. It doesn't mean somebody else's that the opposite of that isn't
Yeah.
valid. So I think that's really important to note on this, because we all come from a different lived experience, especially you guys being educators, this being the Educator Series. I think it's important for our audience to know and hold space for the fact that you guys are going to bring a much different experience than a parent would bring,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I feel like we've lost the ability to do that for each other in such a polarized world. And I
Yeah.
think it started during the pandemic. And so I think something I want to do is be able to bring that back. And it's not about being right or wrong. It just is.
Mhm.
Like, really, it just is. This is how I feel, and this is why I feel this way. And
Mhm.
you don't get to tell me that I don't feel this way, but I want to hear how you feel and what your perspective and your lived experience is too. And I think that's really important. So yeah, there's so much to get into in regards to educator burnout and our education system, and how it's, rooted and antiquated and still operating in a way that is not going to take, from my perspective, our children, the next generation, into the future. I firmly believe in the province of Alberta that this is my perspective, but I believe that our education system is broken. I don't believe that we have the support that we need from the government to fix it in its current state. Maybe that will change into the future. Who knows? I also have 3 kids in the system, and so I see it through their lens as well. And I think that we're starting to see the cracks more and more. And my perception is, and you guys can tell me how you feel about this, is that because those cracks are starting to become more prevalent, we're seeing it show up in our kids. So perpetuating burnout into our kids themselves, as well as we're seeing the educators that are trying to educate in the system wear the brunt of the cracks in the system itself. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
I feel like as I'm listening to you and all the things, and it feels like it's a bit of like a perfect storm. You know, like since COVID, obviously, I feel like the perception of the government and how they feel about teachers and educators has really changed the feel.
Yeah.
I will preface that with, we are very lucky to teach in a very positive culture at our school. That is not the case in many, many schools. We are very lucky. And if we didn't have that, this perfect storm would be that much more difficult. But I feel like there's this social pressure of like, kids need to be in all these things and kids need to be in activities, and if your kid's not doing something, then they're not gonna. And it kind of is the truth in some aspects, like in terms of sports or whatever, but like everything is so fast. Everything is so amped up. It's like we have all these expectations of kids, but even in the change of curriculum, it's like the focus is not on the right things. And teachers have not been consulted in the way that they should in the creation of this curriculum. And we teach little people, and this is where they're starting. And I think sometimes we're just like, thank God we have the experience we do to know what the real important things
what
are.
matters.
But like,
what if you were a brand new teacher though?
Well, and going back to thinking of my teaching days before kids, before a parent, I will be the first to admit that I was extremely judgmental of parents. And I thought, when I'm a parent, I will always do home reading. I will always work with my kids every night and do all the things. They will always have the healthiest lunch. And then you become a parent and you realize that's not reality.
It's not.
And so our expectations of parents, I think, are real, right? We don't have high expectations of parents. We want to be a partnership. And that's what it comes down to. There are many days where we go, oh, our kids were not prepared for what they needed to be prepared for at school. And it's okay, right?
It's okay. That's the thing.
To just let that go.
My kid is in Crystal's class.
I know. And she's amazing. And there's never judgment. Ever.
Which one?
Hazel.
Wait till Poppy comes through.
But I agree too. Like my perspective's changed in many different ways. Like being a parent now, I became a parent later. Like my oldest is turning 7. And I'm 42, right? So, and that too, like just being like, oh my gosh, like I'm tired.
I'm tired.
But how tired these kids are. And like just, I don't know.
And they just like, there's in so many ways, they don't have time to just be. Kids.
There's no time to be.
To play.
No.
Or just, they're in activities.
It's always about do. There's no time to be.
Right.
Same with adults. We've lost the art of being.
Absolutely.
Because we are so hyper focused on being productive, whether that be like climbing a corporate ladder or climbing a social ladder or climbing a sports ladder.
And when we do have time to be or just, relax, we feel guilty.
And why?
Case in point, today, half an hour left in the day, we're fried. Like, we're done. And I'm like, okay, it's centers. And they're like, can we pull out the perler beads? Can we do rainbow loom? And I'm like, you can do it all. It was, they were so happy.
Right?
And they all
played.
all their little pockets.
We did the same thing.
Yes, it was all their little pockets of happiness. These kids doing Play-Doh. My educational assistant was just sitting in there having cool conversations. My administrator walked in and I was like, I had that, we're not. He was taking selfies with the kids in all their new school gear. And I'm like, okay, we have too high expectations of ourselves. We tell each other that all the time, but nothing changes. We tell each other that. We tell each other all the things we need to do to take care of ourselves within all this craziness. And
and we don't do it.
And we're the last
do it.
ones to
Why?
take care of ourselves.
I don't know.
Why?
Well, there's this accountability, and that's what I feel all the time is if you take a sick day, you feel guilty.
Yeah.
Often that's when something happens. So you get a parent email about something happened on the playground and you weren't there to resolve it. So then you're dealing with aftermath, or things didn't go the way that they should have gone with the guest teacher. And there's just the accountability to always just do your best, right?
Yes. I think you said something I want to like pull on a little bit, because you said, get a parent email and you can't deal with it. I had this thought about Lennox, my oldest, last couple of weeks ago when he started grade 7 this year, and he has, 3 different teachers that kind of teach him his core subjects. And one of them emailed me, and I emailed back just like nothing that even mattered. And I was like, whoa, she might have just got 60 emails. And she sent one. She sent one. Mm-hmm. And now what does she do with those 60 emails she got? Nobody's thinking about that. Nobody is thinking about the pressure that puts back on the teacher, and the fact that we expect everyone to be so accessible when you shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to. You should not be that accessible. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up and in school, my parents didn't even didn't even go to parent-teacher interviews. They talked to the teacher if something was real bad. Mm-hmm. Right. That was it. Like real, like Absolutely. Breaking the law bad.
And when your parents went in, they probably went in with like, Debbie is here to tell you.
Yes.
And we are immediately like, oh, okay.
And in trouble.
And we are experienced teachers.
Yes.
We are both good at creating relationships that are positive with our families. We communicate a ton.
Yes.
And even then it's like, really?
Yes.
Yeah. We do all the things, but then somehow, and I think it's because we do all the things. Mm-hmm. We've set the bar this high.
Yes.
It's the way it is. And because they're little people, we feel like we want to communicate all these things. And, grade 1 is their first real big experience in school.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it's just that to maintain that year after year after year after year. Yeah.
You can't maintain it.
And it's that emotional connection that we also feel to these kids and these families.
Right.
We're working with them for the entire year.
Yes.
So we want to set that standard of like, hey, we are always open to communication.
Yes.
We are here to support your child. So not setting those limits is tough. Right. To not, look at that email at 9:30
and reply.
And reply.
Yeah. And then what if they reply again? And then what if they want to talk on the phone? And then,
they do.
And then there's your night.
And they do. And it's just in the past few years where I like don't respond past a certain time unless it's like really something that does need my attention.
You shouldn't.
No.
And I shouldn't, but I'm also a parent too. And sometimes you read something and you're like, and it's my own fault for reading it. Or I won't respond, but it's still in my head all night of like,
or the morning, is going to be crazy.
A shit show.
So it's like, I'm just going to do it now.
Yeah.
Get it done, dealt with right now so that I don't forget tomorrow.
Yes.
And then you have more anxiety about it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, our admin is really great about saying set those boundaries.
Yes.
You don't need to respond right away. Give it 24 hours.
Right. But then it's like, how have teachers become the enemy in all of this? Like, I think that's what you were getting at is like before my parents would be like, what the hell did you do, Debbie? Right. And now it's like, what the hell is wrong with Miss Craddock?
Yes.
How can she not see how great my kid is? Right.
Yeah.
And in an earlier recording that I did with Lindsay, we talked a lot about this and a lot about, the partnership. She also mentioned like we want a partnership, but it's actually not a partnership when you immediately default to the teacher's at fault for whatever the kid did. And that's honestly, I'm guilty of that with my own kids. This has been really eye-opening for me. And like our kids why are we not okay with our kids fucking up? Why can't they fuck up?
It's true.
Who cares?
Yeah.
We fuck up every day as adults.
Yeah.
Why can't our kids mess up?
Yeah.
And then that's how we're actually perpetuating burnout into them because now they think they can't make a mistake.
And learn natural consequences.
Right.
And I think that's maybe where we run into a problem as educators of young people is the consequence and parents, we all parent differently.
Yeah.
And I have extremely high expectations of my kids, and I wouldn't even say that's in terms of like their achievement or whatever. It's in terms of like being a good person.
Yes.
So like, and you know, to a fault where it's like, hey, cool your jets. These kids are little, but it's like, you know, when I want to have these conversations about, okay, such and such happened, and a consequence of that is this. But then when I'm like, is my ass on the line because I've now had a conversation that is, you know, where I just think this is about learning how to be a contributing person, and we are sharing a classroom and space, and our actions affect the people around us. Because to me, yeah, there's curriculum. Kids are going to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, the heart of me as a teacher is about teaching people to be good people.
Yes.
And like, how do we support each other, and how do we show each other we care? And I apologize to my students, and I'm going to make mistakes. And as an adult, we all need to work on these things. It's not just me telling you because you're a kid.
Right.
It's all of us.
Totally.
But yeah, it usually is like, it's the first thing a teacher will sit down and be like, okay, so here are the 10 things I'm doing to help modify, and the 10 things I'm doing to support this behavior, and the 10 things. And then it's like, why am I doing the 10, 20, 30 things? Maybe when other people need to do a couple things.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah, we hold that expectation for ourselves. Right?
Yes.
To do it all.
Yes.
In terms of like life skills.
Yes.
Like the little things, right? Like teaching them things that they might not come to school ready.
Yes.
Like doing up jackets, putting on mittens.
Tying shoes, blowing noses.
Right?
Like
all of those things.
Yeah.
And like, we don't want to coddle these kids. And as a parent, like we don't, but sometimes it's easier. Just do it for them.
I know.
So as teachers, trying to teach them the skills to problem solve.
Yeah.
And be good people.
Yeah.
And just not even the academics.
No.
Right?
But would either of you agree that like part of this perception, I feel like, of public, and maybe some of it from like the government, it's like, oh, the curriculum's this and they're not learning the things they need to know. And I can partly agree with some of those things, particularly with our new curriculum. We're like, that is not important.
Yeah.
And makes no sense.
And makes no sense,
six-year-olds.
you know, developmentally. But it's like, okay, so you're the first to be like, that's not important. Kids need to know these things. But then it's like, only our job as teachers to do those things.
Right.
Like, what are we all doing to support that? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Because I actually think that as parents, we turn to you guys to advocate for yourselves. And it's like, well, if you don't think the curriculum's right, well, then get it fixed.
Right.
But like, what about us? Where's our voices?
Yeah.
We can pick up the phone and call our MLAs.
Yeah.
Like, only a handful of parents probably actually know that or care enough to do that.
Or that we don't have the power.
Right.
We are not in
And
control
the
of
hard
it.
thing is that we look like whiners.
Yes.
Yes,
right?
but you're not.
But like, it's really hard to make a stand and stand up
Yes.
for what we believe is right without looking like whiners.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's hard.
And particularly, yes, since COVID, we do look like whiners.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes people are just whining.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Like, yes, we did choose this profession, but it's not just your typical. There's just so many other things.
Yes.
Like on the list of the things we do, teaching is like the 11th.
Yes. Yes. And that is something that has also come up in previous conversations. Lindsay said something that really stood out to me. And she said, she's been teaching for 22 years. And she said, the job I started in year 1 of teaching is drastically different from the job that I do today.
Gone.
Absolutely.
She said it's gone.
It's
it was,
gone.
I used to teach curriculum.
Yes.
She's like, that is, like you said, like the 10th thing that I get to is teaching the curriculum.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We are getting kids food.
I don't think people know this, you guys.
No.
They don't. We are getting kids food. We are getting kids lunch.
Yeah.
We are helping kids who have 0 English.
Yes.
Families who have come from refugee camps.
Yes.
Kids who have never been away from their family in their life. And they're coming to us for their first full
time.
day.
Right.
Like extreme trauma.
Yeah.
And like, we are being parents. We are being family social workers.
Nurses.
We are the link between that parent and that child getting the things that they need. Christmas is coming up. Do you have the food you need? Do you have Christmas presents?
Right.
Like, do you
or like winter clothes? Like I had a
Yes.
student that had never seen snowfall until this year. And the first day was hard.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of tears.
For the past few years, I've brought my own kids' clothes and been like, Crystal, so-and-so, like, and
just quickly.
And they're wearing it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And
like meeting the basic needs of kids is far more important at this stage than the academics. Which
like if you go back through Maslow's hierarchy, you're actually, we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
We're at the bottom of the hierarchy to say like, we actually have to fulfill the bottom before we can actually get to the top.
Right. Yes. And then let alone emotional needs.
Yes.
Right.
And that is one of the hugest things in the past few years is the regulation.
Yeah.
And the lack of it.
Yes.
And the coping skills and the resiliency.
Yes.
To be pushed outside of comfort. And we are teaching those COVID kids right now, many who...
And technology kids.
Yes.
Right? Which is, as a parent, I'm just as guilty.
I know,
I have
me too,
teenagers
right?
that could sit on technology all day, all the time. And there are days when I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But I know it's not good for them.
Yes.
But it's a coping mechanism, right?
Right.
And so many kids, that's what they do.
Right. And it changes the way their brains are wired.
Absolutely.
It really does. So, like, I think that when we think about the generations to come and the fact that they can't be pushed or we can't push back on them, what, from your parenting perspective, because you're both parents, what could we be doing as parents to help our kids more when we're spending that time? Like, what do you guys do because that would be top of mind for you, is like making sure you're raising your kids in a way that they can handle life essentially. Right.
Yeah.
So like, do you have any thoughts?
Well, honestly, one of the biggest things I think is just talking with your kids.
Yeah.
Like face to face, having those conversations. And there are a lot of times in our day when we aren't, or my kids are on their phone, they're not listening. But we do every single night sit and have dinner together.
That's good.
If we're home, we do. And it's like, how was your day? What was the high? What was the low? Sometimes there's a lot of fighting, or name calling between boys, but just like face-to-face conversations, because it's not happening anymore. And I do feel like there are a lot of like so many more speech concerns.
Yes.
Kids are not taught, like our speech paths are overloaded.
Yeah.
And it's not just sounds, it's like language and sentence structure. And those, if you could interview or meet with a speech pathologist,
that's a great idea.
That you would learn a lot.
Yeah.
Because in the last 10 years.
Well, I know a speech pathologist who's also now like branching out.
Yes, I was thinking about her, and she would be awesome because she could talk about the screen stuff, the brains part of it. Yeah.
And, you know, to go along with that, and I won't say we're the best at sitting down at the dinner time, like, and honestly, like, my students get the best of me. My family gets the worst of me.
Yeah.
And I have young kids. They are 4 and 6. And I have pretty much zero patience for them. And neither does my partner when he comes home, because we're both working in elementary schools.
Yep.
And then our expectations of, like, it's not fair.
It's not fair.
And we know that.
Yeah.
But also as educators, we let our kids struggle.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to solve problems for you.
Yeah.
Like I will honestly be a problem solver.
Yeah.
That you can figure that out.
Yes.
And the success that they feel when they finally do figure it out is like, I did that on my own, right? So it can be challenging though. But when they do, it's like, okay, I did this. Somebody didn't do it for me.
I've actually been noticing that a lot in one of my boys, is that he tends to ask for help on things before he even tries. And I was like, why? I was starting to get really annoyed by it. So I started to say no. No, you can't have help. So you haven't even tried to figure it out. So until you try to figure it out, and until you really try to figure it out, you don't get help on that. Because it's almost like, I don't want to call it laziness, but it's almost like, we must have been doing that for a while.
It's learned helplessness, right?
Yes, learned helplessness.
And we see that a ton.
Okay.
Yeah. Or it's just like, like somebody else would carry my backpack.
Right.
Or,
Yes.
will you here hold my jacket? And I'm like, I'm not holding your jacket.
Right. And sometimes as a
your waist.
and sometimes as a parent, we're always in this busy go.
So we just do it.
And easier, right? We just do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're all guilty of that at some extent.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's definitely no perfect parenting happening at my house. And it hit me hard when my youngest was in grade 1 across the hall, and a parent volunteer was in his classroom, and she said to him, "Oh, you're so lucky. You have your mom across the hall. She's such a nice lady. You must love like having her here. And she's so nice." And he said, "Yeah, she's really nice at school. And then at home, she's super grouchy all the time." And I had to reflect on that because I was like, he's right. I am.
I know.
It's compassion fatigue,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Where all day long, we are giving our best. We are acting. We are animated. And then just crash.
Yes. We're complete trolls at home.
Yep.
I was a complete troll.
I tell you this all the time. I'm like, I am so hard on my kids.
Yeah.
And like, obviously I love them.
Yes.
And, and there's all the loving things, but like overall, like I said to Bob, I'm like, we have got to bring it down. Like we are both not regulated. We are like constantly, and then he's like, well, they're doing stupid stuff. And I'm like, we're doing stupid stuff. Like who's calling us out on our crap?
And I have the opposite because my husband's home all day and not around people. He's just calm all the time. And I'm sure thinks I'm a raging psycho most of the days when I get home. But it's like, I'm done.
How do we help our kids regulate themselves better?
Regulate myself.
It's hard. Honestly, like routine is important. So important.
Okay.
Like, and it's hard because when you're running, sleep.
And like kids crave structure.
Okay.
And, I call myself firm, fair, fun.
Yeah.
Like I've got my boundaries. I'm going to call it like it is. Yep. Maybe I'm a little too direct, but my students know I love them.
Yes.
And we laugh and we have fun, but I'm also like, and like they need that.
Yes.
Like where are my boundaries? What is okay? What is not? We talk to them. What are your boundaries?
Yes.
And having a voice about those things. And I think kids need to feel like they do have some control with those things, but structure is huge. And like, I'm bored. I'm this. Like, they have everything under the sun.
I know.
Be bored.
Yes.
Be in the quiet. Like, go have the quiet time.
Or make your own fun.
Yeah.
Like, kids have a hard time making their own fun.
Because we're overscheduled.
Yeah.
We are so overscheduled. So like, how do we balance between structure? Because I think we all were like, we think being overscheduled is the same as structure, but it's actually not.
No,
it's not.
Yeah, I think of structure more in terms of like expectations.
Yeah, and boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of like what is appropriate and what is okay. And I think those lines are very blurred too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what you see in kids when they are overscheduled. I am guilty. My kids are, I feel like, less overscheduled this year than we were last year, for sure. We learned some lessons last year, and I think we continue to learn these lessons as our kids get older. I definitely still feel like they are a little bit overscheduled, and I can see them get tired. I can see them, like, I can see our fatigue perpetuate into them. And like, I don't know what to do about it. Like, how do you not do that? Like, if they want to play hockey, that's when the schedule is.
I feel like it's so far beyond what your family does in terms of your choices, because hockey itself is every sport
is so intense.
Has turned into some intense elite.
Yes.
Like, if you don't have a ball or stick in your hand by
the
grade
time
2,
you're 3 months old.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Like, making a team, because everything has become so specialized.
Yes.
And kids don't have it really does break my heart as an athlete who played all of the sports and was able to.
Yes.
And they don't have that opportunity anymore.
Don't.
I agree.
Like, you can't play hockey and still do
soccer
or whatever, or anything.
Yes.
It's like, that is all you're doing.
Yeah.
And so they don't get this opportunity to just, I don't know, like, see what they like
and
play
try
it for
new
the love of the
things.
game.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they feel like they need to be good enough. Like having 3 boys, and my oldest has never played competitive hockey by choice, but that's just the type of player he is. But that's one thing I've admired in him, I think, is that he truly plays sports for the love of the game.
Yeah.
But it's hard because that competitiveness is out there.
I know.
And they hold themselves to that standard of trying to be the best and keep up with everybody and do all the things. And at that age, as the teenage age, like be fit and work out and do it all. And so it's hard to keep that balance.
Yeah. Well, and I hear you, Tevi, you're like overscheduled and like you're crazy busy all the time. And my kids are just getting to the age of being in things.
Yeah.
But I'm actually late to the game. Like there's kids who've been in dance already for 3 years.
Totally.
Kids who started piano at age 4. They're already in all the, and Bob was an incredible athlete and we did do all the things and we're consciously not.
Yeah.
But in the back of my head, I'm like stressed out because I'm like, they need to be in the camps and they need to have the ball in their hand. And he's like, but we're doing those things. We're like doing it at home. And I'm like, yeah, but
I know.
Well, and it's also it's the social aspect of it too, right? For them and for us.
For the parents
totally.
too. Like you're part of a community or you're part of a group. And
absolutely.
And if you don't make it, you feel like you're shunned. And like, it's really strange to me. Like, and I feel like even growing up, my brother I played mostly individual sports. So I feel like, except for school, I played on school teams, which I loved. I actually think kids need to get more back into school sports because school sports were the bomb. I loved playing school sports.
They've drastically changed.
They've changed as well, right? But watching my brother go through hockey, I could see a little bit of that, but like not to the extent that it is today.
Because my brother played competitive hockey and it wasn't until, I think he could play until grade 7 or 8.
Yeah.
When it was like, okay, like is it school sports or is it hockey? Because, you know, like you're a teen now, right? It does start to get more serious, but that's starting like grade 4.
Yeah.
You know, and we've started this grade 5 volleyball league. Yeah. Which I love because it's like gives us opportunity for kids who wouldn't necessarily get to have a ball in their hand and then maybe have more of a chance in middle school.
Yeah.
Because middle school being grade 6 now, that also changes things. And like school sports were where it was at.
Yeah.
You could do badminton, you could do volleyball, you could do track, you could do basketball, you could do...
It wasn't tryouts for every little thing. Yeah.
There is tryouts now, though, even for school sports, right? How do you guys see these things show up differently in girls versus boys, or do you?
Well, as a mom of girls, I see this need to be a perfectionist, and I'm guilty of it, like my expectations, and you know, and I think no matter. I feel like every time I answer a question, I'm going like,
no, you're not.
You know, like we have our moms, right?
Yes.
And we all have amazing moms, but then it's just the nature of moms and daughters, right? There's always something you're like, I'm not going to do that when I'm a mom. I am doing all the things and I'm putting it.
Shout out to
Crystal, Loretta running.
I love her.
I love her too. I do, Mom. But you know, it's just this like she comes to volleyball practice. I've been coaching volleyball. So like I have her at school at 7:20 2 times a week, and then she's there with me till 5:30 because I'm coaching in the morning and then after school. And I'm like, pick up a ball. You should be practicing too. If you keep doing this, you know, by the time and she's just like, I'm 6, Mom.
I know, right?
And I'm like I literally had her pair up with a grade 5 today because I'm just like in my heart.
Pepper, bumps and spike.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's like a correlation of kids who play sports and less teenage pregnancies.
Right? Everyone says keep them busy so they stay out of trouble.
Exactly. And I'm just like, and it back to the community of it because I did it and I always had that community and my parents were in the stands with the community and I'm lucky.
Yes.
I'm lucky I had that.
Yes.
Yeah, but I had the same thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, but is there room for me in my heart if she wants to be a drama kid or a music kid? And that's all cool too.
Right.
And for me as the girl.
There's a room in my heart.
Mom, have girls. Tammy, you remember when I found out I was having girls and I was like, what do I do?
I know.
But like to just let them be themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
To just let them be. And this is going to sound like, but it's important. But like the last few nights, because every day I'm like, Crystal, I have to be better. I've been like, Hazel, we're going to say these things together. And we go to bed and it's like, I am loved. She says it. I am smart. And I'm like, what else? And she's like, I'm brave. I'm like, you are brave. I'm curious. Like she's starting to say these things. And
self-affirmations.
And the last one is always, I am enough.
Aww.
I am enough. And like, honestly, I feel like I'm telling her because I need to say it myself. Yes. But I am, because I go to bed just feeling, I gotta do better. Like I just have
every night.
Yeah,
you guys.
Every night.
Why?
I don't know.
Why can't we just be?
Yeah.
Why isn't just being enough? And today, this is how much I can give because this is how I feel today. And tomorrow, it might be different. It might be more. It might be less.
Yeah.
But I'm also just going to be tomorrow.
And it feels like being a teacher and a mom, we can just be mediocre at both.
Yeah.
You can't excel at one.
Yeah.
You have to just meet in the middle and do what you can do. Right. And that's hard. I remember being on mat leave and feeling like I am a real good mom right now.
Yes.
Because I could just, even though there was lots of times I wasn't, but I felt like that because I was more present with my kids.
Yes.
Whereas now trying to balance both, like it's hard to be present at the end of the day with our own families. And
it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I feel plays into this for me is I had such high expectations of my own mom. I held her on this pedestal. I was like, why, if she like wasn't perfect, which it seemed like she was most of the time, when she wasn't, or my feelings were hurt or something, it was like, why? And I didn't realize until I became a mom myself was that she's still just figuring it out.
Yeah.
She's never had a 41-year-old daughter until I turned 41 last February. She's still figuring that out as a mom.
I just actually saw a quote about that, like on TikTok or something. It was like, give your mom a break. She's also living her first life.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
It's almost like we don't think that. And then we are holding ourselves to those expectations of like, well, I held my mom to this expectation. I better hold myself to this expectation. And it's like you said, I'm going to not do any of the things that I didn't like that my own mom did. And I think every generation thinks that. But then it was like, well, why is that necessarily bad? She was doing her best at the time she knew how to do her best. And then when she knew better, she did better, or maybe she didn't.
And look how awesome we all are.
Like, hello.
Right? That's why we're here. Expertise.
Exactly. God. Yeah, I just think there's something about just being and like letting go of expectations of ourselves and our kids. You know what is really cool when you say like you just want to let your kids be? I am practicing that a lot more, and it's so cool because you see their own personalities start to come out and you see them be not who you are trying to form them to be, but who they actually are in their soul. And there is like a scientific definition of burnout, which is great. And I talk about it a lot, but I actually have my own definition of burnout based on my own experience and what I see in my kids too, and what I see in the world. And it is when your inner self is not aligned with how you're showing up in the world. And so who you are on the inside is not actually who you're being on the outside, because you're wearing a mask to try and fit into this society. And you can only do that for so long before you're going to burn out. And because I've experienced that myself and felt like I did a lot of masking, and like I had to climb the corporate ladder and I had to prove myself and I had to do this and I had to get these accolades and all those things that didn't actually matter.
Right.
But to me, they mattered at the time because it was like a proof point in my journey that I felt like for some reason I needed. But it wasn't who I was. Inside, I actually didn't care about those things. I felt like I was supposed to care about those things. So on the outside, I cared about those things. But I feel like you can only live that way for so long before you're like, fuck it. I'm trapped. I need to be freed. And you quit your job like I did, and you are a
right?
free bird doing whatever the hell you don't know what you're doing. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like,
I like what you're doing.
Yeah, me too.
Like, guess what? I'm having fun.
Yes.
Like,
but again, it goes back to that like accountability. And I feel like as teachers, we have so many people that we are accountable to in a day. Like ourselves, our teaching partners, our parents, kids, our admin.
But we're accountable, but we're not trusted.
Yes.
Right. And we really cannot say anything. Like we have such a supportive school culture. Oh yeah. Our team, our admin, our parents. We are very, very lucky.
Yeah.
And sometimes we hold that standard for ourselves higher than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think when you say like we're not trusted, I think you mean like in general by society.
I'm talking like way out here.
Yeah. On peripheral.
I'm not talking like the
immediate.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like COVID, it did such an interesting split. I feel like when COVID happened, in some ways, teachers were valued. Yeah. Like, thank you for all that you've done. Now we see how hard it is homeschooling and doing all of these things with our children. And we are appreciative for all the work you put in. We have many, many parents who feel that way. And we feel fortunate for that. But then sometimes the value now of school, I feel like even attendance wise, we have less kids coming to school since COVID. I mean, I do anyway. I feel like the value of education has changed.
Yeah, I can see that.
Since COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if they miss a week or they miss a few days, it's not a big deal.
It's not the end of the world.
Right?
Yeah.
They survived COVID. They were fine.
Yes.
So I feel like that is an interesting divide.
Yes, I agree.
Where it's kind of opposite ends of the spectrum since COVID happened.
I can see both too. And I feel like, unfortunately, and this is my own feeling and perception, that the small handful of ungrateful parents or parents who were like, what? This is it, are noisier than the larger majority of the parents who are like, thank you. And we are grateful for you. And you have our kids for 8 hours a day. And I can't even handle having my own kids for 8 hours a day. And you get 800 emails a day. And they don't think about anything outside. We're not good at thinking outside of the realm of ourselves and our own families and our own kids. And before we act, it's like, how can I stop and think, before I send some nasty email to some teacher about my kid who was actually an asshole, why can't I stop and think before I do that? People can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
They
reactive.
It's very reactive.
Yeah. Well, everybody has a platform.
It's true. It's true.
And so many times,
that's true.
When I think about a lot, as we're having this discussion, 6 or 7 times, it's like social media. Social media.
Yeah.
We do all these things with expectations of what we see other people keep their homes like, what we see other people's have their kids in, where they're traveling, where they're going, what they're doing on weekends. Oh, we got to hit if we didn't hit the corn maze, we really didn't live fall.
Yeah.
Or if we're not at the whatever, we really didn't enjoy the weekend. And it's do we always have to go somewhere? Do we always have to be doing something? I want my soft pants on by 4:30.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
I am a very social person, but it's just this and I feel like along with that burnout in this social media world of instant gratification and seeing what everybody's doing all the time. If you don't have a little bit of a grounded inclination of who you are and what actually matters to you and how much you care about what other people think about you or don't, or, the things you have or what your house looks like, man, I can't, I'm tired and I feel burnt out and I care, but I really don't care, but man.
And there are many days when we will go to each other oh, what else could we possibly be doing right now? Can we change careers? But then at the end of the day, the joy that we get from these kids and
the
love that we truly do have for our job, it does outweigh all of the other things. It's just learning to have that balance so that we can avoid the burnout and having each other to be each other's rocks when we need it, or, laugh with, or roll our eyes at. Most times we just have to look at each other in the hallway and go, all right, yeah. We don't even need to say anything.
A number of times I just like walk by and I'm like,
right? But then we also like will pop into each other's rooms and be like, look at how great these kids are. And like, look at how much we truly do. Like, it's about the kids.
I know.
We truly do love our jobs and we love just being with the kids. It's the extra.
This is exactly why parents need to advocate for their teachers. First of all, they need to take the time to understand, or their educators, they need to take the time to understand this conversation, this dynamic, the fact that teaching curriculum is not your only job, that you actually have to care for the child holistically. And that is a big job. Like, we have a hard time doing that as parents, let alone now we're expecting you to do that exactly. Actually, I want you to do that better than I do it.
Right.
Because I suck at it, but you're probably good at it. So like, you do that better than I do it.
Along with 20 other kids.
Along with 20 other kids who might be coming from broken homes, who might be English as a second language, who might be like, throw in any variable you want to throw in there. And I just think that there's got to be more responsibility put back on us, or taken back by us as parents, to shine the light on the important job that you guys are doing as educators, because there is other ways for you to walk away from this profession and make money if you so decided to go do Get Ready With Me's on TikTok, you know? Like, get ready with me, 42-year-old woman. Like, absolutely. Right? There is. It's not like...
We've thought of starting a comedy special.
It's hilarious. Like, it's not like you're getting paid millions of dollars to do one of the hardest jobs ever. It's the most thankless job.
Well, and the hard thing that I think is what is also a huge cause of burnout is our days are full. We are present with kids all day. So I saw something that said, like, teaching is one of the only jobs where you have to do the work before you get to work. So you have work to do at work. Yeah. And then after work, you have to do the work you didn't get done at work. Yeah. Because it's true. When we are at school, like, we are with kids. So that's not planning. That's not marking. That's not changing bulletin boards or decorating your classroom for Christmas, or
that's all coming out of your own pocket.
Right.
Mostly. Right. Yeah.
But like, honestly, I've already looked 2 weeks, to next week. And I'm like, hey, when's December 1st? Because I need to be able to stay at work late. And so, will Bob be home? Because I need to have all the magical Christmas things ready for December 1st with these little people. And it's like, do I have anything magical planned for my own children?
No, I know.
It's true.
Right? Might as well help now. It'll just be easier.
Oh, my husband always has done Elf on the Shelf.
Oh, really?
Always. Because, I do it at school and
I'm done.
Right?
But, we do stuff like that because so many kids don't. Like,
I know.
I know. Like, off track again. I refuse to let my students talk about if they have one, because I'm like, so-and-so doesn't need to hear that yours brought you 3 pairs of jammies and
and a
like,
PS5.
Yeah. So we'll do the things.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? You talk about the importance of like having a person or a community, or like at least some people you can count on at your job, at your school, or in your network. What do you guys do to prevent burnout in yourselves? I know we talked earlier about, you talk about all the things you should do, but obviously you have to at some point do some things, or else you guys would be in a whole world of trouble, I think.
Absolutely. I think like just setting limitations. Yeah. Like I feel like our checklist of things that we could do in a day could never end. It could just keep rolling.
Well, especially when you're Crystal. She is a master teacher through and through. No. Like, stop. I am not just saying this. This person could, as in this person, Crystal beside me, could be an administrator at the drop of a hat. Like, I am so fortunate. I feel the same way about her. I have become a better teacher. And, it's like, oh, I have my master's. And I've told her a million times. That doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Like, yes, you have it. And we have these, protocols of whatever. Like, it is about the person. Yeah. It is about what truly matters and how that comes across to the people you work with and the way you work with kids. Yeah. And she's still there every weekend. And I'm like,
and so are you.
I'm like, why are you there? why? And then every week, here's this new thing I found. Here's this new thing I made. Here's this new
way. So she can talk a real good game.
So many times
she's the same way.
But maybe that's your version of self-care, is like hiding from your family.
Really enjoy it. She does.
And you are the exact same way. But I think the best part of it is that we support each other. So lighten the load by like, she is amazing at so many things, writing, wording, like your
ADHD.
Yeah. But we balance each other in that sense where like, we'll share the load. Like I'll do this and you do this and just to work as a team. And
at school. Yes. Yeah. At home, I think like, tuning out a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, and sometimes it's like, okay, like I'm not being the best parent, but like I'm not even a place to be my best parent right now. So it kind of is better that I'm a little bit tuned out and that doesn't feel good. But I'm also like, if it's between me being a snap show right now, or I'm just going to shut the door and I'm going to
watch some smutty TV,
zone out for like this next hour. And, you know, and I feel like most of the time, Bob and I have a pretty good read on that. Like, you know, but not always. Like a counselor. Mm-hmm. I have seen a counselor for a long time. Mm-hmm. And there's a stigma about that too. I'm like, as teachers, we have access to all the things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And just this neutral person to talk about whatever you need to talk about.
You can talk as much shit as you want and you're safe.
Anything.
And you're safe.
And it can be exhausting at times, but you're doing it for yourself.
Yes.
And honestly, like even going back to school after my second mat leave, I went on a anti-anxiety. Yep. Like I was like up to here, and not even about work.
Yeah.
Work exhausts me.
Yes.
And work is part of burnout for me. But it's all the other things that I can't get to because I'm a working mom, like a million other people. Yeah. And that doesn't mean to say like moms who work at home are not working moms. That is an incredibly difficult job and I'm not good at that. But going on that anti-anxiety just to kind of mute things a bit and be like, what's the actual important thing that needs to happen right now so I can get rid of all the other things that have me kind of wound up. And the biggest thing that we talk about is like, I need to sleep better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not good at that because nighttime is the only time you have any time to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm like sleeping with the phone beside me, which is horrible.
Yes.
Yep. And my whole life I have exercised. Like, have you know, like first met me and like single, no kids at all the time in the world. I used to watch
Kelly Jo on the stepper and it was like, oh my God, holy shit.
She still does that just down the hall.
Yeah.
Hot stepping into the photocopier.
Those days and like and I don't feel the best about myself.
Yes.
And it's not even about what I look like. Like I can honestly say I can let go of that. It's about it's just important for my longevity, for my mental health, and I'm not making time for that.
Yes.
And those are the things that like I keep talking about, but I'm not doing because I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I was being more proactive, I know I would. It would help immensely, and I can say all the things, but I'm not doing the things.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being honest. So you just shared all the things not to do.
I know, right?
Totally. Anything else I can help you with?
Right. Yeah.
We need to add like McDonald's drive-through.
Like I also tried an ADHD med because I mean, because I am.
Yeah, you are. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah. It was like my counselor. I was like, do you think I'm 80? And she's just shaking her head like, yes. Like, oh my God, I am. It's like, of course I am.
Some of those qualities are what we love most about you.
Exactly.
So, well, yeah, but they also can make me a difficult partner, I'm sure. But like, I just... it had me so wound, like, you know, trying to find that right balance.
Yeah.
And like in our job, I'm like, I don't even know if I'm ADHD or I have to just do so many flipping things in a day that like
society has made all of us like 40-something-year-old working moms ADHD because we have too much to think about and on our plates. Like, who knows, right?
Like multitasking is an understatement.
Yes.
Like all the things all the time.
Yes.
But clinically, yes, I am.
Yes.
I am an unmitigated ADHD. What do you do, Crystal?
Oh, well. You know, it's funny because when Kelly Jo was going through her, like, kids were young.
Yes.
And the lack of sleep and all of those things that I remember. And I'm at the other end of the spectrum where it's like, I go to bed before my kids.
Yes.
Because they have homework till 11 o'clock or they are up later than me.
Yes.
And I feel kind of burnout from that because like I had to set rules at my house that our kitchen closes at 9:30 because if not, it's like a smoothie at 10, popcorn at 10:30,
craft dinner at 11.
And it's just nonstop. And then I'm angry in the morning because the kitchen's a mess and everybody is just doing their own thing. And I just felt like there's never order in my house.
Yeah.
But yet, like in terms of sleep, I can sleep fine because I go to bed before my kids.
Yes.
Really. But yeah, again, exercising, taking care of myself, not happening.
No.
At all. Eating like garbage, like whatever I can find, scrounging for a quick lunch.
Or like forgetting to eat and then being so hangry and you just like eat what is ever there because you're so hangry. Yes.
I do that between like 4 and 6. It's like, okay, I'll just eat a box of crackers when I get home from work because I'm hangry.
Well, and you don't want to think about anything else. Like you've already made enough decisions in your day.
Yes.
And I read this stat that on average, a human being makes 35,000 decisions a day. A woman and a working mom makes twice that. 70,000 decisions in a day.
I believe it.
Like we have decision fatigue.
Totally.
And if you think of all the micro decisions that we make that we're not even thinking are decisions, but are decisions, like this or that, this or that, this or that, this or that all day long.
And then you get home and your kids are like, what's for supper?
Yes. Or your husband is like, what's for supper?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. You tell me.
Right? I hear you.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we live in a world of so much choice.
I know.
Yeah.
If you guys had any like words of advice for new teachers to not be overwhelmed by, you know, the education system and to come in and be successful and stay as a teacher, as long as you guys have, like, what advice would you give in regards to like the longevity that you have?
You know, it's funny because we take ed students a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an important partnership.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the U of L is doing a good job of like talking to these kids about self-care.
Good.
And taking care of themselves. But then it's funny on the flip side as like veteran teachers where we're like, oh, self-care. Oh,
right.
You're tired. You know, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like your fresh-faced 19-year-old skin is a little tired? Like, what? You know? And so we're preach it. And,
I know.
And we know it. But when we hear it, we're like,
well, that's because we used to party and show up the next day in the clothes that we wore out the night before because we were still partying.
Yes.
And we didn't complain because we didn't feel like we were allowed to.
Exactly.
No. And that's all changing, right?
Yeah.
And like even the generation of how we started teaching, like when I started, I never took a personal day for like over 10 years.
No.
Not one.
That was unheard of.
Yes. Or like a sick day. And even now, there are many times when we go to work sick because it's more work.
Yeah.
To be honest, to get ready
to
for
get a sub plan. Yeah.
It is. But like 10 years ago, we would have never dreamed, like if we took one sick day a year, it was like, oh my gosh, I had that sick day back in November. Like,
I know.
It's going to look bad.
But right? Gen Z has it figured out.
They do.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, before I even started, like, I think it was my internship and the principal at the school I was at, she was like, take a sick day when you're not sick. And do you think I've ever done it?
No.
I've taken a sick day to be homesick with my kids.
Yes, but
it's not to do, you know,
no, not to go to the movies in the afternoon.
And she even said, like, sit home when you're not sick and do what you want for that
mental health day.
And then you won't be sick. Like,
But you can't because the guilt eats you alive. And that's actually worse on your mental health. And then we go into this mode of being overproductive because we feel guilty.
Totally.
Well, and then as a teacher, you cannot be anywhere
No.
between the hours of 8 and 4.
Especially nowadays. Somebody sees you.
You're on social media.
Yeah, like I was at a meeting and I got out at like, it literally got out at 3:30. So I like zipped to run an errand and somebody was like, oh, you're not working today? And I'm like, I did work today. It's 3:45. Like, you know, but like you have to explain.
I know.
I'm just like,
I know. Yeah. No, thank you.
So I don't know. Like, yeah, I think we do need to tell these younger, like, what would we tell our own kids?
Right.
Like, what would we tell?
I feel like looking back on myself as a new teacher, like I lived for teaching.
Yeah.
I lived to teach. Like I was there every weekend. I put my heart and soul into every minute of it. And there was a lot of that like competitiveness, right? Like you wanted to be the best or have the best bulletin boards or have the coolest costume or, you know, like the silly things that really don't matter.
Yes.
Like let that go and just find out like what matters to you. Be present with the kids.
Yeah.
Work as a team.
Work as a team.
You're not like gone are the days of like I made this, I created this. Like those are so gone.
Yeah.
Like we just had a collab day with another school and sat down with their whole teaching team at the same grade level, and it was like, do you guys want this? Here, take this.
Whatever you can do to make each other's lives easier,
It's
right?
not like make sure you tell people that can't. Like
I
we don't care.
There's no ownership.
There isn't.
Yeah.
But then, like, and there's always this flip to everything I'm saying, because then we also live in this Instagram world of like teaching accounts and, you know, and we're often like, and I'm not trying to knock people who do that, right? Like everybody does it for a different reason and like whatever fills your boots, you know? But it's like the hundreds of people who are doing amazing things every day. And
if it's not on social media,
not out there, you're not doing it, you know? And
or you're not amazing. Because you're not putting it out for the world to see.
You're not seen in that way, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to knock people who do it. Like it's just, that is that added pressure to so many teachers of like, classroom's got to be decorated like this and it's got to, those things don't matter.
Yes.
And then you need to post it and get likes and get people to follow you.
Yes.
And like,
oh yeah, I follow way too many Utah moms.
Right?
Like
and their decorations.
Yeah. The amount of DIY they can do.
Yeah.
And the ones just had a brand new baby. And like, I'm like, how are you doing? You just DIY'd your entire mansion.
Yes.
How?
Yes.
And you have 8 kids.
Yes. And the grout is falling out of my tiles as I vacuum my floor.
Right. Totally.
The amount of crumbs on my floor, you know?
Yes. I look at that and I'm like, what happened to me? Like I used to
I know.
I used to be this OCD, like super clean. Like I was cooking and doing it like
for what?
Oh, right.
What? I don't know. I was single.
I do love your lemongrass. I've thought about that a lot. One time you made that lemongrass dish, remember?
Was it a soup?
I can't. It was at your house with the yellow walls.
Yeah. Tartan house.
Oh, it was so good.
Heavy. I couldn't even tell you the last time I purchased.
I didn't even know what it was until you had it that day, and you're like, "I've got lemongrass." And I was like, "Wow, let's have it."
Now she's got Subway.
Now we've got Hamburger Helper, KD, Itchy Band, you name it.
Yep.
That's true. Well, thank you guys so much. This was such a good conversation. I feel like we could go for another few hours.
I know. This is self-care.
Yes,
honestly, this is self-care.
And there are many days at the end of the day at like 8 o'clock where we'll FaceTime each other.
We do.
And
for
hours. Our day. And then we're like, hey, just for a couple minutes, I just need to. And then it's like an hour and a half later,
like this,
in bed,
like 10 o'clock, and it's like, okay, see you tomorrow.
And it is self-care just to debrief and have somebody to talk to.
You got to debrief.
Somebody
you got to debrief. Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for you for that.
I'm grateful for you. And thank you, Tabby.
I'm grateful for you guys. And my eyes have been opened around the job we have to do as parents to better advocate for our educators, because I don't think we're doing a good job right now. And that's just me. That's my observation. And I think I want to do this because I do think there's a lot more we could be doing. And like, these are the next generations. Like, we should care. We should care.
Yeah.
And we know that there are many parents out there who do. And
I know.
are so supportive. And have that connection and really truly are a partnership.
Totally.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we appreciate them.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you doing this. Because like, honestly, like we talk about you and this podcast and like what you're doing often because it really does get us to reflect. Like, I mean, I'm not doing the things, but like, honestly, like, what are we doing? Right?
Like well, when every day still, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? What did I post last night? Was I sober? Yeah, I was. Okay, it's fine.
Well, when I saw Tevi at Costco, I was like, I'm sorry I haven't listened because I'm too burnt out.
I don't care. I actually don't even care if this helps one person, then great. My job is done, you know? Yeah. And it's fun for me. So I was like, whatever. I'm going to keep doing it until I don't want to do it anymore. Yes. Well, and then I won't do it.
It helped me today, so thank you.
Great.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys
Thanks,
so
Ted.
much.
Thank you.